For more than a decade, social media platforms have dominated our attention, our emotions, our politics, and our mental health. But right now, in 2026, something strange is happening. Engagement rates are collapsing across nearly every major platform, some by more than half in a single year, even while total user numbers keep climbing. That contradiction alone should stop you in your tracks. This isn't a temporary dip. This is the beginning of the great attention economy collapse, a quiet revolution that could reshape culture, politics, business, and human relationships in ways we're only beginning to understand. The attention economy was built on a simple but incredibly powerful idea. Capture as much of people's time and attention as possible, then monetize it through advertising. Platforms like Facebook, Instagram, TikTok, and YouTube perfected the art of keeping users scrolling, liking, and sharing through algorithms engineered specifically to maximize engagement. This model was staggeringly successful. It created trillion-dollar companies and completely transformed how we communicate, consume information, and form our opinions about the world. But the costs of that success are becoming impossible to ignore, and the platforms themselves are now showing real cracks in the model that made them so powerful in the first place. Here's where it gets genuinely startling. Instagram's average engagement rate collapsed from 2.94% in January 2024 down to just 0.48% by 2026, a staggering 79% decline in roughly 2 years. TikTok, still the highest performing platform for engagement, has slipped too, sliding from 5.14% down toward the mid-threes. X, formerly Twitter, has fallen even further, now sitting below 1.2% and dropping roughly 9% year over year for 2 straight years running. And this isn't just a story about likes and comments. Comments specifically have fallen 24% on TikTok and 16% on Instagram, signaling a broad shift from people actively participating to people passively scrolling past content without engaging at all. And yet, this is the part that makes the story so counterintuitive. The total number of people on these platforms hasn't shrunk at all. Global social media identities actually grew to roughly 5.79 billion by 2026, up 5.4% in a single year. So more people than ever are technically on social media, while the actual meaningful engagement happening on it is quietly falling apart. People haven't logged off entirely. They've gone quiet. Studies consistently show rising rates of anxiety, depression, loneliness, and political polarization linked to heavy social media use. Younger generations are particularly affected. A striking number of teens report that social media makes them feel worse about themselves and their lives, and the share of U.S. teens who say social media has a mostly negative effect on their peers has jumped sharply from roughly a third just a few years ago to nearly half today. A 2026 survey of 1,000 adults found that 55% are posting less than they did 5 years ago, and nearly half have deleted a social media app entirely because of the stress and anxiety it caused them, with the single most common feeling people report after stepping away being simply peace. Political content and polarization specifically are pushing people away too, with a large share of respondents saying divisive content actively makes them want to withdraw. But there's another force accelerating this collapse that almost nobody predicted a few years ago: AI-generated content flooding every feed. By 2026, researchers estimate that somewhere between 71 and 79% of all images posted across major platforms are now AI-generated, what's been bluntly nicknamed AI slop. That flood of synthetic content is making it dramatically harder for real creators to get discovered organically, and harder for users to trust that what they're looking at is even real. Platforms that used to feel like genuine communities are starting to feel more like sterile broadcast networks, drowning in content that mimics quality without ever quite delivering it. Here's an important twist, though. This isn't necessarily proof that people have simply stopped caring about connecting online. A lot of engagement hasn't disappeared. It's moved somewhere platforms can't easily measure. Instead of publicly liking or commenting, people are increasingly sending things directly to friends through DMs, sharing links in group chats, and having entire conversations about content in spaces analytics tools can't see. Researchers call this dark social, and it means some of what looks like a total engagement collapse on the surface is actually a retreat into smaller, more private, more intentional interaction, which, if anything, says something deeper about what people actually want from their online lives now. The backlash against these platforms is growing more organized too. Users are increasingly aware of how these platforms are engineered to manipulate their emotions and their time. Features like screen time limits, digital wellness tools, and a broader cultural movement toward more mindful technology use are gaining real traction. Some users are choosing to delete their accounts entirely. Many more are quietly, significantly reducing how much time they spend scrolling, even if they keep the apps installed.
The business model itself is under real strain as a result. Advertisers are growing more skeptical about the actual value of social media advertising as visible engagement rates decline and privacy regulations tighten around the world. The rise of alternative platforms, decentralized social networks, and even a modest return to more traditional forms of communication are all challenging the dominance of the major players, even as, paradoxically, overall social media ad spending keeps climbing because advertisers haven't yet found anywhere better to put their money. That tension between falling engagement and rising ad spend can't hold indefinitely.
This collapse of the traditional attention economy carries profound implications well beyond the platforms themselves. Politics will change as traditional social media becomes a less reliable tool for mass mobilization and propaganda, especially as public engagement keeps shrinking and more conversation moves into private, harder-to-influence spaces. Culture will shift as people spend less time consuming algorithmically curated content and more time in real-world interactions, or in smaller private digital spaces that feel more genuinely social. And business models built entirely around capturing and holding public attention will need to fundamentally adapt or risk becoming obsolete, no matter how large their user numbers still look on paper. The great attention economy collapse is forcing us to confront some genuinely fundamental questions about technology, human nature, and the kind of society we actually want to build. Are we better off with platforms optimized purely for engagement, or with tools that respect our time and our mental health instead? The coming years will determine whether we manage to build a healthier relationship with technology, or whether the attention economy simply finds new, more subtle ways to capture our minds, perhaps by following us into exactly those private, dark social spaces we retreated to in the first place. This is one of the most important cultural and economic shifts of our time, even though it's happening quietly, one muted notification and one deleted app at a time. What do you think? Is this a genuine, lasting shift away from public social media, or just a temporary lull before the platforms figure out how to pull us back in? Let me know in the comments. And if this made you look at your own feed differently, subscribe, because this story is still unfolding in real time.